Hello and welcome back to another In Up Weather video. Today we are talking about Winter Storm Diaz for the final time before this storm moves off the East Coast. This is the storm that has impacted the West Coast, including the Sierra Nevadas, the Northern Plains with a blizzard, a severe threat in the South, and last but not least, what we're going to be talking about today, a wintry mess in the Northeast. So we're going to start off here with a little bit of the Weather Channel and their type up here. So at a glance, Winter Storm Diaz has already brought blizzard conditions to the plains. Northeast and Appalachians will see snow and ice late this week. Snow and wind will continue to impact the plains and Midwest. And there's actually a little bit of wind in the Northeast. We'll talk about that too. So we currently have this storm rolling through the Midwest and the South, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, going to be moving into the Northeast. Here is the Weather Channel's rendition of the snow and rain forecast, and you can see, just pay attention here closely to their rain snow line moving through the Appalachians of West Virginia, much of central and northern Pennsylvania in snow, northwest New Jersey in snow, the Hudson River Valley kind of split in two, the lower Hudson in rain, upper Hudson in snow, portions of Connecticut in that snow barrier there, especially in the northwest, and then moving up the coast west of Boston. So that's one of the big things with this storm as it moves into the Northeast, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. But let's get started here with the NWS hazards. So we're going to be focusing on just the Northeast today, starting off with our winter storm warnings in Vermont, Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania. We have ice storm warnings in portions of Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. We have winter weather advisories in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and actually that's it. Then we have winter storm watches in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we have two different model runs here. We're going to be looking at the NAM and the HRRR throughout this video, just because they kind of show different routes that this low pressure can take. So here is the NAM 3-kilometer model, and you can see here mostly rain moving up through Virginia, but in the higher elevations of Western Virginia and West Virginia, some freezing rain, some sleet, and that eventually overnight Wednesday night into Thursday morning, well into Thursday morning actually, we see that ice threat move into Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and eventually, as we move through the latter part of the day, this is right around 10 a.m., and then as we move towards, this is right around, let's call that 3 p.m., right around 3 p.m., that mostly converts over to snow. Across much of Pennsylvania, interior New Jersey, much of upstate New York as well. So that's the main thing that we're going to be looking at in terms of the, let's call it the mid-Atlantic region of this storm, is when that transition happens from freezing rain to snow. But then we have to look out for low pressure placement, because here's that low pressure, 1,002 millibars, and it's riding right up the coast, which leaves areas such as New York City, Philadelphia in the rain, but then you have interior New Jersey, upstate New York, portions of Connecticut starting to see that snow instead of rain right from the start. Now, there are going to be some places that are going to be seeing snow all the way through, mostly in the upper elevations. The upper elevations of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, going to be seeing snow no matter what. New York, most of New York is going to be inland enough to see mostly snow, but there are going to be some areas in the Hudson River Valley that are going to be low enough and warm enough to see rain. So that's another thing that we kind of have to look at here. Then we have a transition. So you can see here portions of southern upstate New York, portions of southern Connecticut in snow rather, but then switch over to rain as this low pressure moves closer. But there are two areas of lower pressure with this system. One is right along the coastline here. Right now it's in between Delaware and New Jersey, and another one is out to a little bit further off on the coast. If the low pressure takes that track off the coast, we'll see that rain snow line shift a little bit further south into areas like Danbury, Connecticut, and up near, I guess that would technically be Middletown, New York. And then we could see a little bit more snow in those areas. Now, if it takes the inland route, which we'll look at with the HRRR, those areas are an all-rain event. But no matter what here, the coastal areas, Boston, Providence, New Haven, New York City, Newark, Philadelphia, although Philadelphia could start off as freezing rain, but those areas are going to be mostly rain. And for New York, Boston, entirely rain. And then you can see as this low pressure makes its way up the coast, we could see some wraparound snow into some areas, including the Boston area. Maybe could be seeing some wraparound snow, but as this storm moves up into Maine, you could see a lot more snow on the coastline there. That's the only place where we could be seeing snow very close to the actual coastline itself. So here is the HRRR here, and you can see that different low pressure placement staying closer to the coastline there keeps areas such as Middletown, New York, and Danbury, Waterbury, Connecticut in rain for the majority of this event, if not all of it. So that's where we really got to see where that rain snow line sets up, and that's going to depend on which region of lower pressure is the lowest area of low pressure. So that's kind of the thing that we got to worry about there. But overall, kind of the general setup for the storm is going to be the interior regions of the Northeast are going to be seeing snow. The coastal regions are going to be seeing mostly rain and a wintry mess in the middle. We're talking about the hilly areas, not really in the upper elevations, not really in the coastal plains areas. So we're talking, just right in between, and that's where that wintry mess is going to be. It just depends on timing there and where that rain snow line sets up. But again, we said earlier that there is going to be some concerns with wind for this storm system, and that's mostly going to be on the coast. You can see, I think that is portions of southern New Jersey in that, 20 to 25 mile an hour range, getting up towards the northern coastline of Jersey. That's closer to 25-30 miles an hour. As that low pressure moves up the coast, the Boston area could be into that 25-30 mile an hour winds. Cape Cod and Nantucket could be seeing 30-35 mile an hour sustained winds. So that's where we're going to be seeing maybe a little bit of coastal flooding. In some areas, there are a little bit of alerts out for that. Let's actually go back here to the hazards. I don't think it's on here, but there are some areas where that coastal flooding could come into play, and that is because those wind speeds are going to be strong enough to push some of the ocean on land. Now, here is our total precipitation with this storm system. You can see some clear winners, especially in the upper elevations, the Adirondacks, down portions of the Green Mountains, the White Mountains in Vermont, New Hampshire. Then along the coastline, you can see the coastline of New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, getting some of those larger amounts, although those areas will be entirely rainfall. Then we have some areas of upstate New York getting 4 inches of precipitation. That will be all snow. And some areas of Pennsylvania seeing 2 to 3 inches of precipitation, mostly in the form of ice and snow. So this is where we're going to go into a lot of our different snow representations. Here is the NAM 3-kilometer model's rendition of the snow totals. You can see upstate New York, a clear winner here with, I guess we have to kind of balance this out here at least a foot of snow, if not more, in some areas. And then areas of Vermont, western Massachusetts getting into that foot amount, maybe even portions of northern Connecticut, as well as some areas of north central, northeast Pennsylvania. And then we have to switch here to our ratio here for some of the lower lying areas. So you can see here portions of Connecticut in that 0 to 3 inch range, portions of interior New Jersey in that 0 to 3, 3 to 6 inch range, areas of, call it central Pennsylvania in that 0 to 3, 3 to 6 inch range. Then you have the Adirondacks of West Virginia in that 0 to 3, 3 to 6 inch range as well. Here is the HRRR's rendition, and you can see here that in terms of our, let's actually go with total snowfall here, which is actually a good blend of the two. I like the HRRR that does this. You can see at least a foot in some of the higher elevations of New York, Massachusetts, Vermont. Just everything here is a little bit toned down compared to the NAM, which is a little bit more blown up in terms of the snowfall totals. So that is one thing that we do have to see play out a little bit more. Are we going to be seeing those higher end snowfall totals or those lower end snowfall totals? And that is where the Weather Prediction Center comes into play. This is the 50th percentile 72-hour snow accumulation, where you can see that the big winner is in the Adirondacks. That is 15 to 18 inches in that purplish area there. That bright blue, that is 12 to 15 inches. You can see some areas of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and especially in New York, seeing that area. The rest of those blues, those dark and medium shade blues, that is 6 to 12 inches. You can see portions of Pennsylvania now coming into play. And then we have our green area, which is 0 to 6 inches of snowfall. And that involves areas a little bit further to the south, including Connecticut, portions of lower lying areas of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, down into Maryland as well. So that is the 50th percentile. If we move up to the 95th percentile, which means there's only a 5% chance of having more snowfall than this, you can see the big winner in the Adirondacks at over 2 feet. And those lines just shift further to the south. This is kind of something that I was looking at, that 95th percentile, being, does the rain snow line set up a little bit further south? That's where you could use a little bit of this. But that's not the only threat here. We also have our 72-hour freezing rain accumulations. So in this light green, very light green, that is 1/100 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch of ice, so a glaze by most standards there. Then we have this medium green that is 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of ice, so a fairly substantial amount, and that is right in some of the suburbs of Harrisburg, including actually the city center itself, some of the suburbs of Pittsburgh, some of the suburbs of DC and Baltimore in that range. And then last but not least, this darker green is 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice, and that is in many areas of the Alleghenies and the Appalachian Mountains. Now, we also have our 95th percentile on this too, which expands that green area up towards Harrisburg, up towards Pittsburgh, up towards DC, or technically down towards DC, down towards Baltimore. So that's another thing that we have to look out for too. But overall, the storm was crazy, and it's definitely not calming down in the Northeast. Just a massive mess of wintry precipitation, different scenarios that could all play out and really affect those results. But overall, the past week has been insane. This storm is definitely a very memorable one for myself, and definitely most of those that have been involved in tracking the storm or being witness to this storm. So Winter Storm Diaz, definitely one that's going to go down, at least in my mind, in the history books. Just an insane cross-country snowstorm. But that's all the information that I have for today. If you enjoyed this 4-part series about Winter Storm Diaz, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more from me, click that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss any more weather updates from me. And that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.